Mortal Kombat has been around for over 30 years, and it's hard to believe that a game featuring digitized characters simulating violence would have captured the hearts and minds of so many people worldwide. So this list is a list of the games that I think are my worst to best Mortal Kombat games. I like them all. They all have a special place in my heart in one way or another, but if I had to rank them, this is how I'd rank them. So you guys let me know if you have something similar, or if you don't agree with mine, that's cool too. So number 11. So my first my first game on the roster would be MK versus DC, Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe. This was an interesting game because it was a departure from the violence that Mortal Kombat is synonymous with. There was no blood. The fatalities were very toned down. It was a very interesting game, and it was kind of like a precursor to Injustice. So, you could see the bones of that in this, but, it was different. I'll give it credit for that. You had like the close combat and, the fighting while you're falling off a ledge. I thought that was pretty cool. They also had the Shao Kahn Darkseid combo as a boss, which was kind of neat. My next game on the list would be number 10, which is Mortal Kombat 4, which is Midway's first attempt into the 3D realm of fighting. So you could see the newness and the freshness of this new engine. It was a little janky, and it was super, super fast and very arcadey compared to the other Mortal Kombat games. But, it's the first of its kind, so you give it credit for that as well. And it, still holds a place in my heart. I always think of Mortal Kombat 4 as, it's just such a departure from the previous three games, which used the digitized characters and they went to these polygons. So it still holds a place in my heart as a cool game. Deadly Alliance being number 9. This is the first attempt on the 3D realm on home consoles. So on your PS2 and your Xbox, OG Xbox, you have the chance to play Deadly Alliance. It was a very limited roster of characters, but they did introduce some staples to the series like Kenshi, Bo Rai Cho, amongst others. But the stages were limited. There were no stage fatalities. Each character only had one fatality, which was kind of weird, as we were used to at least 2 per characters, along with some other ality or whatever it may be. The story mode was very limited to just text and kind of just like a training mode for fighting and how to use the engine. But overall, it was the beginning of something. It was the first time we saw, Shang Tsung and Quan Chi team up, which was a cool thing. The death of Liu Kang. This was the game where you saw all that. So Deadly Alliance was number 9. Now number 8. The OG Mortal Kombat. So this is Mortal Kombat 1. Not the one that's being released in about a week or so. This is OG Mortal Kombat 1. So there were 7 characters, staples to the series to this day. And it was just a very, bare bones. But, you could see the potential, like the violence. This is the thing that sparked the whole, ratings of games, the ESRB. So it had the test your might mode, the endurance mode. You got to fight this, clay model fighter, which is Goro back in the day, which was awesome. The stop motion was just excellent. And, Shang Tsung being the main boss. And you just get an introduction into the lore, and you get to start to appreciate, the characters and the story behind it. So number 7. Number 7 goes to Mortal Kombat Armageddon. It is the last one in the 3D era on consoles series. It's still a good game in my opinion, and it's the only game that featured every single fighter in the Mortal Kombat universe at that point in one game. So you had a huge roster of characters to choose from, and it was just a really, really interesting game where, you didn't have your standard, different fatalities per character. There was a, create your own fatality, something or other, which, failed miserably. It was not fun. That's the one thing I don't like about the game at all. But, you had the motor combat, which was pretty cool, and a nice departure from, the standard fighting. Your creative fighter mode as well. It's the only Mortal Kombat to have a create your fighter mode, so a lot of interesting creations there. And then Blaze being your main baddie, which we never saw him again as a main baddie because he obviously sucked. Number 6 goes to Mortal Kombat 3. So Mortal Kombat 3 is an interesting game because when it was released, it had no Scorpion or, old-looking Sub-Zero or Reptile. Any of those characters, they were all gone. It was kind of stripped down, but it was still a cool game. It was just, I don't understand a Mortal Kombat, like, just taking out Scorpion on the main roster. We haven't seen it since, and I think they learned their lesson. But, Mortal Kombat 3 instantly was changed over to Ultimate Mortal Kombat that included, your favorite characters, Scorpion, OG, Sub-Zero, things of that nature. So, it became a better game, but, you kind of had that bad taste in your mouth where you could tell that they released an incomplete product and then kind of rushed to finish it off. So, that's the one reason why I put it at number 6. Still a great game, one of my favorites, but yeah, just for that reason alone. Number 5. So number 5 goes to the MK that I've been playing a lot of lately, which is Mortal Kombat 11. I love Mortal Kombat 11. I know a lot of people, have some gripes with how slow it is comparatively to other games. I do agree in that sense. It is a little bit of a slower fighter, but, you can still pull off some crazy combos in this game. You had you create your own variations with, really personalizing your characters, which is really, really good. The graphics were unbelievable. Probably the best looking game in the MK series thus far. But some cool guest characters too. You had Rambo, you had Kari Horioku Tagawa playing Shang Tsung. Stallone was like voicing Rambo. You had RoboCop with Peter Weller voicing RoboCop. You had Terminator. You had just such cool characters, two cool guest characters in my opinion, Mortal Kombat 11. And you're also introduced to a new villain, which is Kronika, which kind of fell flat for most people, including myself. Number 4. Number 4 goes to OG Mortal Kombat 2. If you're a kid like me who grew up in the 90s, you remember walking into an arcade and just seeing that, there, it just drew you in, and people loved playing it. It had 12 characters, a lot of cool characters that are still staples to the series this day, and we got an introduction to Shao Kahn himself, the Emperor of Outworld. We had all, the tournament took place in Outworld in this game for the first time, so you got to see what that looked like. And it was just an expansion of the lore and a better game than the first game in probably every way. Visually, it just played better. It was just more interesting. It was just a fantastic game and really stands out, in my opinion, as one of the better Mortal Kombat games of the series. Number 3. Number 3's got to go to my favorite 3D era game of all time, which is Mortal Kombat Deception. Deception was a really, really good follow-up to Deadly Alliance. Introduced us to a lot of other cool characters, such as Havoc, and I can't remember anyone else at this point. My mind's drawing a blank, but we were introduced to Onaga, which is my favorite villain in the MK series thus far, and I hope we get him in Mortal Kombat 1, but that's for another video. But yeah, Onaga was a really, really cool baddie. We had the Conquest mode, which was another kind of story mode within a story mode, and you had, a lot of cool treasures and costumes you could unlock, and it was a really good introduction to that level of storytelling. You had puzzle combat, which is a play on Tetris, and you had chess combat, so our introduction to these little mini games as well. It was just a really well put together game, and that's why it sits at number 3. Number 2. Number 2 goes to none other than Mortal Kombat X. One of my favorite games in the series, and for that reason, it had the best roster. Well, not the best roster, but a really, really good roster, in my opinion. You had awesome DLC characters with Alien, Leatherface, Predator, who else am I missing? Jason. There's like the introduction to the Combat Kids, which is a really cool thing. Our favorite characters such as Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade were aged more in this game, and you got to see the setup for their kids. Some of the kids I liked a lot, like Takeda was one of my mains in Mortal Kombat X. I thought he was really good. And just the graphics, the dark nature of the game, the speed of the game, it was really fast and really combo heavy. The fatalities were fantastic, and you had Shinnok as your main villain in the game, and he ended up transforming into like this super Shinnok, which was pretty cool. And my number 1 game, my favorite Mortal Kombat game of all time, has to be Mortal Kombat 9, simply titled Mortal Kombat. It had everything, in my opinion. The best roster that we've seen in the Mortal Kombat universe thus far, in my opinion. It was a retelling of the first 3 games, basically, and it was just a fantastic game all around. It had a tag team mode fully fleshed out, which was really awesome, and it was our first introduction to this kind of new storytelling where it integrates right directly into the fighting itself. You had cool guest characters such as Freddy Krueger, which is, you know, the first and, you know, to see these characters from off screen. We had Kratos, which is awesome for PS3 users. You got to use Kratos, and that for that reason, that's why it stands at number 1. And talking about number 1, Mortal Kombat 1 is coming out in just over a week. I'm super excited, and once that game comes out, I'll do another list and see where I place Mortal Kombat 1. So you guys tell me what you guys think. How would you rate the Mortal Kombat games if you had to rate them? Is it different from mine? Are there certain things you agree with, certain things you don't? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.